Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajalee, thank you, Sister Yah Israel, because you reminded me of this. And I didn't even really think I was going to talk about it. If I had lots of time, then I would have been, I should talk about Lenny Kravitz. But I just happened to look into it this morning and found out way more than I needed to know about a non-black man who is 59 years old. His career is at a standstill, even though he's been doing little things prior to the nudity to revive his career so that he oh my goodness, Lenny Kravitz, immediately, the first time I ever saw him, well, the first time I ever heard, his song, it wasn't his song, but American Woman, he just was so stiff. I've been, through my dad, acquainted with, more than acquainted, but fell in love with Jimi Hendrix and all the rock from that era, which was very true to the feeling, the impulse that whatever the artist used to create it, it was very close to an authentic expression. But when I heard Lenny Kravitz doing a remake, if you're gonna do a cover song, unless you're really gonna do it better, you should not bother. It was so stilted, I couldn't stand it. And then when I saw, him, the dude has just got like a mega ego that's so ridiculous. So, I guess this was his dad. I don't know if his dad is still alive. I know that whoever his dad was, I don't know his name. I know Roxy Roker, of course, from the Jeffersons, but they got divorced. And, Lenny was her only child. I don't know anything about her personal persona, who she was, but her son was just like so full of himself. He still is full of himself, and that would lend itself to him doing what he's done recently and not realizing, yo, dude, that was your end moment. When you have to grovel yourself to a level of impropriety that is going to go down as your legacy. Now, if nobody remembers your name, your family is going to remember you. And how in the world could they look at great-great-grandpa and he's like this? What? See, when it comes to the biracials, they're so desperate. They don't all have to be arrogant, but just the level of desperation for white approval, it can get mixed up with their own personal imperfections so that they never address their own core confusion to extricate themselves from the theft that was committed against them of their melanin. And thereby they're so desperate for white approval that they never look clearly at who are you begging for approval. And like, it also reminds me of Grace Jones and how, like, most of these swirlers, their children just will disappear into whiteness, where there she is. That's a grandchild. Does that grandchild have anything whatsoever in common with Grace Jones, who, in my full conclusion, she was a rugged-looking sister, but and I can't call swirlers sisters or brothers at all, no, because obviously you're not helping us. And so her son got together with a Becky. This is what they all do. Patrick Mahomes, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. But pretty much the overwhelming majority of biracials hook up with white people. They can't get enough of them. And this is going to be his son-in-law for, I'm sure, Lenny. This is fantastic because he more than likely sees himself as a white man. You could be one thing, but on the inside, I'm sure Charles Barkley he's in a house of white people and he thinks he's one of them. He would never, even though he originates from two black parents, if your mind is out in their mind, you already as pale as this dude who's, you got these guys running around and they're doing all kinds of freaky deaky stuff. And you are not going to even check. Is this the legacy I want to introduce my progeny to so they'll never be able to extricate themselves? Any sane person would say, nope. But that tends not to be them. And going over Grace Jones, I was just curious about this photo right here with her, Dolph Lundgren, and this was them doing the 007 film. And I just found it fascinating that she's got the horn thing up there, and then looking at him, all of this kind of reminded me of Schwarzer Pete. And how you got all these countries out there that, no, this is just our tradition. We're not trying to be racist. But this is their nature. It's historical. You can't just show up and think that you're going to change white people's ways because you such a nice Negro. And so I went looking for, Schwarzer Pete is supposed to be St. Nicholas's helper. We know who St. Nicholas really is. But anyway, they wanted to just pen all the bad doing for all the bad children onto Schwarzer Pete, who would come in and, he got the sack and he put you in there if you were a bad little baby. They just love freaking the children out with some big old black man's gonna come and snatch you up and put you in a sack. When there weren't any black people running up and taking over Europe. They came on down to us. And that's where the division happened. We've just been living straight in the conquering. And when you are biracial, you don't even want to know about that. And so I thank this, website for giving more information on it, because I was like, wait a minute, this is all too cute, and maybe they admire black people. They're trying to make us look like we're Santa's little helpers, and that's the way they describe it. But you keep on looking, and this is the dude they're talking about. This is Krampus. And I know there's a website that calls himself Krampus or something like that. And he's a conspiracy theory guy, I do believe. And I saw how he came up immediately. I'm just saying, all right? But Krampus is what evolved into Schwarzer Pete, where this figure, who was supposed to be the devil, it's supposed to be the one who would come and get the children. He's described as half goat, half demon during the Christmas season, punished children who had misbehaved. And he was always depicted, was usually hairy. That's not us, okay? Brown or black. Cloven hooves, horn of a goat, fangs, and a long pointed tongue that lolls out. You see a lot of these folks doing this sort of thing, where even with the band Kiss, Gene Simmons, he got the bottom of his tongue surgically severed so that he could stick it out further. They're fascinated by these little things because it's their history. It's their motivation, their primal fears about us, and not even before they physically encountered any of us. This stuff goes back all the way then to the ancient Roman, ancient Greek times, where then they knew us because they used to, in order to learn anything, had to go on down to the schools in ancient Kemet in order to learn, because they weren't going to learn. A bunch of illiterates up in Europe, they weren't going to learn anything up there. If you don't have these foundations established, where you gonna go if you're slightly curious? You going down the ancient Kemet. But that back then it wasn't ancient, it was just Kemet. And so some of the older versions make mention of misbehaved children being put in the bag and taken to hell for a year. And so this is the mindset of the swirlers, where they're just going to hang out with this dude who is all of Christianity in itself is a satanic coven, where they were trying to figure out a way to civilize Europeans enough so that they could fool the world into thinking they were the owners of propriety, of decency. Because before that, they were all doing that orgy stuff out there. You could just, the walls of Pompeii were painted with all kinds of horrifying depictions. That's all they're getting back to. This is some former model. I don't care who these people are, but that's her son. And I think he was either the cameraman or I think he was the director of an erotic. Even that word, I can't stand using that word because it makes it sound as if it's something that it sounds like exotic fruit or something. No, she was having sex scenes. And her son was right there. And she says, I was okay with that. Of course you were. Historically, they're just getting back to themselves. They were pretending. Wrongdoers cannot pretend forever. Now, for us, they're wrongdoers. For them, it just feels like they've been out of their minds for the longest time, trying to make everybody believe that this woman right here is a pinnacle of virtue. And that's not the case at all. How could you ever even consider something so disgusting? And so when these biracials, who for whatever desperate reason, and black, the couple of materialistic, hedonistic black folks out there who will go along with this nonsense, you can never ever find such a depraved history amongst us unless those are groups of people who have been somewhere back in their history traumatized by these people. Okay? I'm just saying. Go to 25,000yearcycle.org, where we are not looking for approval from folks who are going to take advantage and cripple and maim and do whatever that they do to stay in charge. We're here because we love you. And that's why we do that deep research, so we can assist you in getting everything you need to be a magnificent you. Straight black pride, and we own forever. Love you. Peace and blessings.